You and I got the Tiffany blue memo, and I'm not sure what Jennifer's doing over here.
I know.
She did not.
Valentine's Day.
This is a shirt my wife got me for Christmas. Yeah, I say she buys me a nice shirt every year.
I like
this
it.
is the nice shirt for
I
this
like
year.
it.
So,
Okay, let's get started.
are you ready?
Yep,
We're good?
ready.
After like 45 minutes of me trying to figure out why our system is broken.
Sure.
I did my best.
Hello, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast from the CityRise Network. Hosted by Jennifer Dennis and produced by me, Justin Kello, we're a podcast that was supposed to be focused on parenting, but we've kind of lost the plot along the way. Honestly, we don't know what this podcast is about, but we talk to incredible people who love Jesus, and our hope is to provide encouragement and fun whenever possible. If our lack of clear direction bothers you, we apologize, but no one is making you listen to this podcast, unless you're married to Jennifer. Andy, thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast. We're so excited to be with you here today. Justin, we are going to have to talk about time today.
We have to talk about weather too, but
That's it. Time and weather. I cannot pretend that we did not have to trump through leftover snow
the once in a lifetime
to
snow.
get into this building
Yeah,
today. However, though, I did think we could mess with time because I am wearing a Valentine's Day sweater.
Perfect. I think this will come out. This will come out in February. So it's
Oh,
close-ish.
good. It'll be.
Yeah.
I believe that you can start wearing Valentine's Day probably.
Let's make it general. When can you start wearing the seasonal attire? How far out?
Okay. February happens, like February 14th is Valentine's Day. So you don't get the full month. And let me
Sure.
just say, I think more women wear Valentine's Day clothing than they do Christmas.
Okay.
They love the hearts on the sweaters.
Mhm.
I have one that just says love and has a big sequin heart
Yeah.
on it. I think probably after January 15th,
Okay.
4 weeks out.
So you think, is that for any holiday? You can do it 4 weeks
No,
out or just
I
specific
think it's
holidays?
just Valentine's Day because there's no reason you would be wearing red, white, and blue a month out. That's the day of. That is a day of thing. That's not
You
the week
cannot
before.
celebrate July 4th.
You cannot be busting out with your Old Navy
On June 4th.
July the 4th on July the 3rd because people will look at you and say, it's not July the 3rd yet. 4th yet.
Really?
Yeah,
But-
don't you agree
But
with me?
Halloween, can you start October 1st?
Let me get back to that. I will say though that during the summer, red, white, and blue are kind of a light boating theme colors
Okay.
for the whole summer.
So you-
What about Christmas?
Yeah.
Day after Thanksgiving.
Okay. What about Halloween?
Halloween?
Is it all of October?
Yeah, I
Really?
think so.
So if you have like a Black Cats shirt or like a Boo shirt, you can wear it.
I
October
will
1st.
say that it's pretty good all of
Mm.
October. I don't have any Halloween
Yeah.
outfits.
Okay.
I really don't.
What about St. Patrick's Day?
That's the day of.
Okay.
That is only the day of. Obviously, right?
What about Leap Day?
Leap Day is every 4 years. I do think that, like, heavens, for those people who were born on Leap Day, bless them.
Oh my gosh. Maggie's due date was February 21st. And it was a leap year. And I was praying for a leap day. I was like,
You wanted her to have a
I thought it'd
leap
be
day
so cool. And she is very happy that she doesn't. Every year she's like, you wanted me to have a leap day birthday. And I was like, yeah. She's like, that would have been awful.
I just think that every year you have to explain it. You're always having to tell people you're a Leap Day baby.
Right.
So I'm excited to be in my love t-shirt.
I love it.
But we have just experienced more snow than I've
The
ever
history
seen.
of Houston. Yeah.
Serious?
Since like the 60s, I think.
I mean, like more than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it did not give me great pride to go on to the internet and see what people were logging out of their home to fly down a hill in.
That embarrassed you? I kind of took a sense of like, we're innovative.
Okay,
We're innovative.
Some of it was innovative. I saw a few rice guys that had flipped over a plastic table.
Yeah.
And here
Which
was-
actually is an incredible idea.
That's a
'Cause
great
you've
idea.
got the thing to hold on to.
Yes, it comes with
Yeah.
the rails. That
Yeah.
was brilliant. And and I will say, I was telling Andy, we should have gotten in the car and gone over there.
Yeah.
It looked so fun.
Yeah.
But we're at that age where we have hips and ankles and knees,
Parking
and
would have
we
been
are
a nightmare.
wildly responsible. Everybody I know is ferociously responsible.
Yeah.
And you couldn't tell anyone you drove to the middle of the city.
But I heard since it hadn't frozen, it was just snow. It was actually safe if you drove slow. There was not like patches of ice yet.
Oh,
It
you
was
think
just snow. But I didn't know that.
Nobody was saying that on the news.
Yeah. In the moment, I didn't know.
But they had all these people at Miller Outdoor Theater.
Yeah. It looked fun.
And then down at Herman Park where
Yes.
there's that big bowl
Yes.
at the end of
Yeah.
the good night. That
I
would have been
think a lot
so
of it
fun.
is. I'm actually regretting we didn't go either. We went to there's a park here that has like a little like fabricated kiddie hill, and there's like 40 people there trying to sled on all sorts
Just
of
shoving
things.
off the top of that thing.
And it didn't go very fast or far. but-
I saw regular cardboard boxes that had
Yeah.
been put in trash bags.
Mhm.
I saw
Smart.
I saw storage bins that they dumped out. They're riding those down.
In our area, the quickest, the thing that did the best, we saw someone with a nap mat or like a stretch mat, those like foam.
The yoga mats.
And they had just folded up and that thing flew down the hill.
That was a good choice.
Like, it was perfect.
I will say that there were other things that I thought were really questionable. I'm trying to think what they were now.
Someone was in a suitcase.
Kiddie pools. I did see the suitcase and I thought, how are you going to get that going? Kiddie pool.
Yeah.
I also saw those giant floats that they have at Sam's.
Yes.
Somebody just trying to get down a hill on a penguin.
Someone brought an air mattress where we were.
Air mattress.
Air mattresses. Yeah.
Yes. That might have been a good, but it was funny to me because that's how you know that people have never had snow.
Yeah.
No one owns a sled. No one owns a sled.
Of course not.
They're all at their.
Yeah.
They rent them in Colorado when they're there.
And I thought it was precious. I thought it was charming. You didn't think so much.
I thought, okay, I can understand charming. I just thought it was really crazy.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, look out your window and see that much snow.
It was crazy. And for one day I can handle it. When I lived in it, I hated it, but my kids really enjoyed it. So it's a memory they'll never forget. I mean, they'll never forget the snow day.
They will never forget the snow day. Yeah. I remember my snow days. We actually did have a sled.
Right.
But they'll never forget the snow day. And let me just agree with you. I will concur that as Houstonians, we're good with the day of that.
Yeah, just one day.
Check the box. We're good.
I saw someone post together they're like Houston needed this. Normally when we're out for weather, it's a hurricane or a flood. We never have a fun bad weather day. So
never.
We needed this fun bad weather day.
It's always like make sure you get everything off the floor when the rescue team
say goodbye to your home.
Boats in to get you out.
Yep.
It's the worst. And it is hurricanes. But oh my goodness, it's been really fun.
It was great.
Well, life moves on and it moves on pretty quickly.
I have a story before we move on though.
Let's Jennifer, go ahead and hear your story. What's happened?
Have you ever driven in a car that may or may not have a rat living in it?
It is the worst. Yes.
Have you had that experience?
Yes.
It's a literal nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
I used my car one day and it smelled a little funny, but I was like, I have kids, whatever. Kids make weird noises, smells. And then I parked in the river and then I got home. And then later that day, I was going to take.
Oh, you mean not a living rat?
I don't know.
Oh.
I know it was alive. It was very much alive. And then I got home and then my kids got in the car to go somewhere and Chris and Maggie's like, oh, my seat. And I was like, what? Like her booster seat had been chewed up. And I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
And so I go back there and start looking and there is rat poop in multiple locations in my car. And so I clean it, I vacuum it. I take a baseball bat and just like hit every part of my car. Like I'm Carrie Underwood in that song, just like trying to like beat up, just scare a rodent out of there. And I'm like, okay, I did the best I could. And then I go to sleep. And then the next day, rat poop is there. So there is a rodent that is living in this car because it was cold and they were hiding.
Makes a great cartoon.
Right.
A terrible life.
Right. And so, but I have to drive the car. I have to use it. So I'm driving around not knowing if the rat has left for the day or if they're like hanging out somewhere.
You kind of wish you could confer with the rat to their schedule. It's like, what's your plan today?
It's terrible. At a certain point, we just kind of went full Ratatouille. And so the rat is there. He's guiding me. He's looking in the blind spots. When you're at a fast food place and they're like handing you all the food really quick, he's eager to take that from me to help me. So it's a real cartoon Ratatouille driving situation because we just have a symbiotic relationship now because I don't know if he's there.
I did have one in my car and let me tell you what he did. He chewed through my electrical system and we had to replace that.
Okay. So that's a fear. So I think I actually got him out because I put a trap in that didn't work, but then I looked up, they hate the smell of peppermint. Which is actually a great smell. So it's like, oh, it's
not a bad smell at all.
And so I drenched my vehicle in peppermint multiple days in a row.
You smell like a big mint.
And then I smell like toothpaste, which is fine. But then by the third day, there was no more poop. I was like, I think I finally scared this guy off. It was burning. It was burning my nostrils. And so I'm sure his little nostrils were on fire. Review. And it was not great. It's the peppermint spray. Like it got the rats gone.
Justin, I'm so sorry you went through
But the smell is still in the vent, so that's in the shop trying to get cleaned out. It's awful. I almost burned the car to the ground. I was like, I don't even want this car.
You want to burn the car to the ground.
I was
so mad.
I was like leaving the keys in it so someone to steal it. I was like, just take this car away. I don't need a rat.
I was just beating my car. You're beating it. Get out of here. Get out. It's the worst. I'm so sorry you went through that.
It's in the shop right now to get cleaned to hopefully not smell like rat through the AC. But it was an experience that I never would wish on my worst enemy.
really
Oh, my
rooting for
worst
you to-
enemy.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's
It's
the
the
worst.
worst.
It's the worst.
I have not had things that bad going on.
We survived.
I'm working on my empty nest hobbies.
Yeah.
I'm working a lot of puzzles,
It's great.
Fortnite, cookies. I've been trying to make cookies.
That's great.
Which, by the way,
You haven't brought me any. I don't know what's going on.
well,
there.
there's a reason for that, Justin. They're terrible. I'm bad at it.
Okay.
I keep changing the recipe to try to get it right. It's either I too much flour and they're like chocolate biscuits, too little flour and it's like brittle. I think I burned a batch.
Yeah.
And other people are like, and they just kind of like, that's the easiest thing to make. And I'm like, it's not. Like, I don't think it is. Eggs are much easier to me. Toast, way easier.
What about that one recipe you made for that women's event that you're so proud of? Why don't you just make that?
What was that?
I don't know, but you were so proud of it. It was like a ball and it was like dusted in powdered sugar, I think.
Those are right. That was a delicious.
Was it not really a cookie? Was it some like
No.
cookie adjacent
That's
thing?
like a candy sort of thing. Very easy. Very straightforward. But I'm going to try again. This time I'll put more flour in because it was a peanut brittle crispy. It just goes flat.
It's a science. The temperature of the butter matters, apparently.
It is a science. Yes. You have to like get your butter to room temperature, which takes 7 hours.
Yeah.
And poor Andy did not know that. He kept putting it back in the refrigerator. And I didn't even tell him. I didn't say, what touch the butter? Not only that, then you make the mixture. You eat half of it and you put it into the refrigerator.
Right.
It is a whole rigmarole. So that's another hobby. I've been trying to increase my hobbies and just like things that I enjoy doing.
Yeah. Well, you're doing great with the empty nester thing. You're wearing house shoes. So you're already like halfway to like the giving up on life.
Don't look at my feet. I am going to say I wore these to work. Let me just say what the problem was with that. First of all, I was like, we're out for snow.
The office is closed today. Nobody's here. I had to ask for them to turn the heat on so we could be here.
Thank you for doing that. I said, I'm just going to wear my little fluffy shoes. And Andy's like, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
He goes, is Justin going to give you grief? And I go, he won't mention it. Andy, here's your I told you so moment. Brought to you by Jennifer and Justin. But here's the problem. I didn't realize that there would be so much snow, sludge, and ice.
And you've got zero tread on those shoes.
No tread. There's no tread. They're wet now. There's nothing comfy or soft about my experience. So
lesson learned for the next snow day.
These
for the next snow day. Now you know.
I don't wear house shoes into
the snow.
The leftover snow. I'm not even used to snow sticking.
Yeah.
It's still
It was
here.
a shock. It was a shock to our system. Yeah.
Of our day. All right. Well, speaking of
snow,
a shock to our day.
A shock to our day. We mentioned women's event. We did mention the women's event.
That's
This is the tie-in. Okay.
Here's the tie-in. We have our women's events coming this next month. And I tell you, I've heard wonderful things about our speaker. And luckily for you guys, she's here with us today. Okay, everybody, we are excited for our speaker today, our guest on the show. And please welcome with me, Marian Ellis.
Hooray!
Hey.
Well, hello. I feel like I just stepped into like The Price is Right or something, or some big.
People are always comparing us to The Price is Right.
Yeah, that's about it. It's the vibe. That's the vibe.
It's a lot of energy and a lot of ridiculousness.
Should I go ahead and spoil everything and tell y'all I've won that in college? I mean,
get out.
You've been on The Price is Right and you won?
I did in college.
Wow, that's really cool.
Literally, I mean, can you peak at 22 years old? I mean,
I really don't know what you do after that. Well, you become a amazing speaker and minister to women. I think that beats
Sounds reasonable.
Did you have a blast on the show?
To most people, The Price is Right is probably much more impressive. So
we cannot lie. That is really
pretty
cool.
Exciting.
I know. That's our get to know you questions. You know? Welcome.
Wait, stop. What was the showcase? Do you remember?
So I actually won the first half of the show. I won like a trip, some money, some furniture, a refrigerator. And then I lost at the wheel. But I say I won because I went home with so many things. So technically,
of course you won.
I won a lot.
Of course
I remember
you won.
that first section.
Did you get up bidding $1 or did you bid like for real?
No. So I think I love we're here. We're 5 seconds into this podcast. So I was there on a college tour with a bunch of girls. This is all pre-Jesus, and we camped out to be on the show and get in, and they interview you, kind of the producers do.
Right.
And so I was the first person called down of the whole studio.
Wow.
Marian Jordan, come on down. So I go down. The first product they bring out is this refrigerator that my sister had just bought one. And I knew, I was like, $1,200. I was like within dollars of the price.
Wow.
And I'm not like a mathematician or an economist or anything. So I'm a deer in headlights. I watched Days of Our Lives. I did not watch The Price is Right. So I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. So I get on and I'm just like this blonde that I just do not do blondes a favor on this show because I just didn't listen well. I didn't know what I was doing. And they basically just gave me prizes to get me on stage.
We're going to go ahead and give you all this stuff and pick it up on your way out.
You just go ahead and go home. That's what they want.
Well, I'm pretty impressed with that. I think that's really
wild.
Cool.
That's wild.
Well, thankfully for us, you're going to be joining us for our women's retreat. And we're excited about you coming. We're going to be, I believe the theme of the retreat is authentic friendships and making real connections with people. And we know that you lead Redeemed Ministries.
This Redeemed Life Ministries.
Life Ministries.
Got it.
I'm going to get in trouble.
We spent
cool.
I think we spent 15 minutes before recording verifying what your ministry was named. So we just kind of dropped the ball there.
But you think I'd get it right. But this Redeemed Life Ministries.
We're just practicing being authentic right now that, we all need our afternoon coffee. It's a whole thing.
That is no joke.
To be fair, it's had a couple of names in its last 20 years, but we're called This Redeemed Life, which is really, my story is a redemption story where Jesus rescued me, literally brought me back from just so much darkness. And I want to see that happen in other women's lives. So we provide free content and app and teachings for women to experience Jesus, and not just for salvation one day when we go to heaven, but the real transformed life here and now that is possible by the Holy Spirit. So
I think that's a really powerful message. And I think so many times women do not know how to walk in that. We do not know how to get past the, yes, Jesus, I want to follow you. So what does tomorrow look like? And many times we're kind of left at the end of a spiritual high or this huge spiritual moment where we feel like we've connected with Christ. And then we step into like whatever. If we don't have that kind of help or that kind of resource, you don't know how to move forward.
You're looking at me to verify how women feel. I cannot verify how women feel. I am just cheering you on.
So
you are just cheering us on. And to the credit of your women's team to come up with an incredible topic called authentic, because we can't live the transformed life. We cannot live what I call the redeemed life if we're trying to do it. Christianity is not a solo sport.
Right.
It is absolutely a community. It's absolutely done with other people. And so that's why it's so important to even be part of things like a retreat, to be part of a great Christian fellowship, is because that's where God does his work in us.
Do you agree that it's hard for women to be authentic with each other? Do you think that we struggle with that?
I was thinking about that this morning, knowing that you and I were going to have this chat. And I believe if we go back even to the Garden of Eden, so we're all probably really familiar with the story. Humanity's created in this beautiful, perfect, good environment. And everything we have and want or need is provided. And then sin enters the world. And the first thing we do is we hide.
Right.
The first thing we do is cover our shame with fig leaves. And throughout my walk with Jesus, God has been so gracious to show me as a woman the different ways, even though I'm loved by God, even though I am redeemed, even though he's done all of this work to bring me in this relationship, there's still ways that Satan says, you've got to put this fig leaf on if you want to be accepted by people.
Right.
You've got to put this fig leaf on if you want to fit in or have community. And really what it is a lie that says that who Jesus has made you is not enough. The righteousness of Jesus to cover you is not enough to free you from shame. So you've got to pretend, or you've got to have the right image, which is a fig leaf, in order to have a seat at the table. And so a lot of us that have been coming to church, who have been in Bible studies, who have been part of a greater Christian community, we're still alone in some ways because we bought the lie that we have to cover up who we truly are or we won't be loved. I know we're
Right.
getting real deep, real fast. You're like, this, but
Right.
that's the essence of what happens, I think, in our hearts is that the enemy whispers, you've got to cover. You can't be real. You can't be authentic. And so I think getting past that takes a huge work of God in our heart to say, who my son is for you is enough for you to stand and know that you're loved and that other people can really see you and you don't have to prove anything.
Right. It takes courage. It takes a leap of faith and courage. And it takes faith to know that God's going to take care of that realness. Like he will bring it to good. When you're being authentic with people, when you're letting them know your real struggles or how you really feel, and as a speaker or as the people that are attending the event, everybody looks so cute and precious. They're all giving their little hugs and they're all like, but you can't see how the enemy is attacking them behind their eyeballs. And I think if we were able to see and hear what women were actually experiencing and thinking, it would really be in some ways heartbreaking to see what they have to fight through to be there and be in that space with each other. So I do think I think that's going to be such a wonderful topic and so meaningful to talk about pulling aside some of these spaces that we use and being real with each other. I do think it's not feeling good enough. Now, in your ministries, how did you get involved? Did you just immediately the next day after The Price is Right say, I'm going to the ministry? Or was there some process? Or how did you end up in ministry?
If only that were the story. No, I live in San Antonio now, but Houston is my spiritual birthplace. I love Houston, Texas so much. It is
well, let me just say, Marian, the only people normally saying that are the people who live here. So it's good to hear it from somewhere else.
I should work for the Chamber of Commerce because everywhere I go in the globe, people will talk trash about Houston, and I will say, not in front of me. I will defend that city. I will defend the people of that city. I love Houston, Texas because Jesus rescued my life in Houston, Texas. And, after college, God sovereignly ordained that I would get a job working in Houston after college. And I was lost. I was every bad country song. No, I was just I was a hot mess. And I was, that this was at the time, just to date myself a little bit, where the show Sex and the City was the rage. The movies were just about to come out. And that's what, single girls living in the city, this is who we were aspiring to. And I was living that, and I was in the darkness of that. And I was in a bar really not too far from your church. And my first prayer on record in heaven was, Jesus, help. And I had really came to the end of myself, came to the end of a bottle, came to the end of what the world said was right and fun and was going to bring satisfaction. And I just found a lot of emptiness, and I was a very broken person. And as a result of that prayer, which was just a simple, God help, a friend of mine invited me to a church in Houston. And that's where I heard the gospel. And that's where I met Jesus. And I fell in love with Jesus. And really what that became for me was more than just, I went through a Bible study program. I went into a spiritual hospital. And God did a work of repentance on my part, coming to the cross, receiving grace, but a healing that made me whole. And a lot of that was dealing with shame from my past. A lot of that was dealing with the lies that I had believed that led me down such a path of darkness and brokenness. And so to answer your question, how did I get into ministry? Is after God did this work of healing and redemption in my life, it's like you want to give away what you've been given, right?
Right.
If you've received grace, you want to give grace. And so really, I just started by teaching Bible study, and I just couldn't shut up about Jesus. And my church sent me to seminary to grow in my knowledge. And while I was there, I was sitting under this professor who had this really heart for evangelism and heart for the lost hearing the gospel. And I just remember sitting under her teaching, and it was like, man, the Holy Spirit was grabbing hold of me of like, there are people in the world who don't know the Lord. And that season was just a real season of surrender. And it was like, God, here I am, use me. And I came back, we were studying abroad at that time in seminary, and I came back and the Lord really put on my heart to write my story of redemption using the television show Sex and the City. And so,
how about that? Wow.
So that was my first book. It came out like in 2007, eons ago. But that really just set my life down a path where for about 15 years, I really was an evangelist. I went to college campuses. I shared the gospel. I told about living the life that all the world celebrates and tells a woman, this is what's going to fill you. This is what's going to make you happy. This is where you're going to find love. And the emptiness of that, the destruction of that, and how that only God can fill the God spot in our soul. There's a God-shaped hole in our souls that can only be filled by God himself.
Amen.
And so that's really what started this redeemed life, is me really answering the call to take the gospel to people who would never walk in the church. And so since then, we've just been creating teachings and resources to see women's lives transformed.
I love that. I was at seminary as well. I think we were probably a little bit apart, but I went to Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth as well.
Okay, I went to the Houston campus. So,
yeah. Oh, so that was not mine. I think I was in Fort Worth.
Yeah, I think I was in
Fort
Fort
Worth.
Worth.
It was on a different campus.
We had the same professors, just at a different location.
Probably,
because
yes.
my professors flew in from Fort Worth, and they were there.
Oh,
Whoa.
they did? Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, same professors.
It's funny. I went through my entire, not that this is about me, but I went through my entire seminary degree, the whole thing, without knowing what I was supposed to do.
Mhm.
And let me just say, I was one of the few, because everyone else had this big, heavy calling, and they all knew what God was leading them to do. I mean, they wanted to be, missionaries, but what part of Asia? It was like they were so granular. They knew so much. And I'm like, should I do children? Should I do youth? I couldn't figure it out. So I loved it.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah, it's a finding place.
Okay.
Phil Briggs was a professor, and he said seminary is a finding place. It's where you find where God wants you to be. It was perfect. It was true. I
think the first thing about a calling is not necessarily a what, it's a who. And our calling is to follow Jesus.
Amen.
And if I've learned anything, the what changes over time. And the people who are so sure that they know the what, a lot of times God's like, who told you that?
It's so true. That changes. It changes and it moves, and it's so good.
God's calling is interesting, because I had some experience where when I first felt called into ministry, I had a real clear of like, this is what I'm going to do. And then I spent a year, and God was like, you're not going to do that. You're actually really wrong. This is what I want you to do. And it was just very clear, like, that's kind of a bummer. Like, because you feel like you have surrendered, but you're surrendering on your terms. You're like, okay, right. I'll do it if I can do these. These are things I'm really excited. This is what I think I should do. And God's like, actually, I know you better than you know you. You're not doing that.
This is not what you're going to do. He's yes.
Yeah, I'm writing a study on Peter right now, and we all look at that initial surrender at the Sea of Galilee where he goes to follow Jesus. But even in that, Peter still had some ideas of what he thought it was going to be like. Mm-hmm. He still had some ideas of and certain expectations of who he thought Jesus was. And those all got really unraveled really quickly, So I would just say you're not alone in that. I mean, we all get,
so this
is what it means to take up my cross and follow you. I don't get to set the plans. I don't get to set the agenda.
That's true. That's so true. Well, we're so excited that you're coming. Justin,
Well, did we talk a little bit about a preview of what exactly you're covering for the ladies? Because we are going to send this out a week or two before, and we'd love to invite people to register. So this is kind of our last call for like, hey, please sign up. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about coming to this event?
I want to encourage women that you may already have this really great group of girls that you're like, oh, I have my friends. But there's a difference between having a group of people that you call friends, and there's a difference between having a group of people who want you to be everything that Jesus created you to be, and who want you to walk in wholeness. One of my favorite scenes of the Bible is when, again, thinking about the gospel, those friends that took the roof off the house to lower their friend to Jesus, And so we're talking about at this retreat, building those kind of friendships.
Right.
That we're, spiritually speaking, going to war with each other and for each other. We are women who aren't afraid to be known because we're receiving the love of God so that we can receive it for ourselves and we can give it to others. And so really what the intent of the weekend, the word authentic is what we're all about. And the word authentic just means it's real, it's verified, it's true. And sometimes we don't know that something's not real until we see something that is authentic. And I think God just wants to give us a picture of what relationships can be and what he's inviting us into so we don't miss out, because life in the kingdom can be incredible, but it's never supposed to be done alone. And so I think God just wants to give us a picture so that if we don't have that, we can take the steps in our personal life to cultivate that and to create those things.
That's great. That's wonderful. I think that would encourage me to go. And I hear that they're going to get sweatshirts.
Wish I could go.
Am I allowed to say that?
Wish I could go.
I think I can say that.
Well, I'm there.
Sweatshirts, along with deep, meaningful friendships. I think it's going to be such an exciting event. Please register. You can go on to
CityRise.org/women.
There you go.
And we'll remind you at the end. But there's one more question before we wrap up.
It is the get to know you question.
Yes.
It is a question.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're looking at me like I know you.
You say you come ready every week.
I do come ready with a little bit of a get to know you question.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And so,
I can't wait to hear it. This is her biting for time.
I can't wait either.
She's
I'm
praying.
a little nervous. I've got to practice what I preach.
Praying.
I've got to be vulnerable and real and authentic and all those things.
She's hoping the Holy Spirit will intervene right now with an idea.
dear Lord, we've been doing this for how many shows?
This is our 162nd episode.
Should I ask you one?
I know. That's a lot of questions. That's a lot of questions.
Yeah, you really don't have one.
I do have one.
Okay.
I'm about to throw it out there.
Okay.
Okay.
See, I threw her off because I think she was going to ask me if I ever won a game show. And so I
was
already
gonna
stole
start
that
with
one.
what is a day?
You could be on any game
tell you
show. What would
what.
it be?
And you don't have to use this. Justin said something earlier, and he was talking about a snow day. We just had a snow day. You did too, I'm sure, as well.
Oh, yeah.
Snow day withstanding and the game show. What is a day in your life that you will never forget?
Oh, that's a great question.
Thanks. I knew it all along.
Yeah, and we'll answer first. We'll go first. You can think. I think I'm going to stay outside of I don't think it's wrong to default to my wedding day or, and the day my kid was born.
Sure.
If that's your answer, that's great. I'm trying to think of those random days that you didn't expect was going to be a lifelong memory, but years later you still remember it.
Right.
And we were talking about how snow days are that way. It's in Texas, they're so rare that when you have a snow day, my kids are going to remember
really
it forever.
special.
I know they're going to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of something like that was just a random day. And usually it's holiday related, I think.
Right. I was thinking that could be.
Yeah, but I would say
Christmas Eve.
A day I'll never forget is anytime. Well, I'll say this. It was the last strong memory I have of being with my grandmother before she got Alzheimer's. So it was Thanksgiving, and it was our last Thanksgiving where she was still mostly coherent. And I remember it because she was a lifelong Aggie, and the Longhorns and Aggies were playing that day, and I am a Longhorn, and she wore a Longhorn shirt for me on Thanksgiving. And this was
that's really
the last holiday that I really had with her before Alzheimer's kind of took over. And it was just nice that when she was still in her, she was still there. She's like, I want to support Justin, even though as the game's happening, she's yelling for the Aggies. She couldn't hide it that well. She really wanted the Aggies to win. But she was wearing this and she was Neiman Marcus lady. She wore nice clothes. So she bought a nice collared, stylish Longhorn print shirt and wore it for me.
It wasn't the Amazon knockoff. It was
it was a legit.
Really.
It was nice. So
it was verified by the university. It was real.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
I love that.
So a random day I didn't expect to remember forever. I'm like, oh wow, that was really meaningful.
Okay.
I had one. Do you want me to go?
Go for it.
So, I was going to talk about the day my daughter was born, but someone said that was lame. So
right.
You read it. You inferred that. I didn't.
I was going to talk about my wedding day.
I'm just
whatever.
kidding. So because I came to Christ later in life, at 25, I didn't end up getting married till I was 38. And when I got married, my husband was the father of 2 boys, and so I became a bonus mom. But that was incredible, and I still in my heart longed for children. I longed for a child, And so years went by and had prayed and asked the Lord and really just thought that chapter of my life was closed. And I was in New York and I was speaking in a church in New York. And if you've ever been in New York, it doesn't normally smell good, just walking down the streets. I mean, occasionally you smell the hot dog or whatever, but it just felt like everywhere I went, it just smelled horrible, horrible. Okay. And it almost was making me sick. So I get on the flight from New York and I fly to Missouri to speak at another women's conference. And the women's minister picks me up and she is, taking me to her church. And I'm just like, now her driving is making me sick. And I tell her, I'm like, I don't know what's going on with me. She goes, could you be pregnant? And I can remember every second of the next hour. I said, no, I'm 42 years old. There's no way I'm pregnant. And she goes, why don't we just pull in CVS? So she pulls in CVS. And at 42 years old, I do the thing that you do in the bathroom at CVS. And I walk out and I am so shocked. Like, beyond like comprehension. I'm shaking. I have to go to her church now, 30 minutes and go, preach. I'm just like, and my friends, the worship leader there, and I walk from my hotel room to hers and I'm just white as a ghost. I'm like I couldn't even believe it. And I'm like, it was just like, after all this time, after all this waiting that I'm I felt like Sarah, I'm laughing and crying and just can't even believe it's real. So I will never forget that day.
Oh, that is a good answer. That's a great answer.
That's a really good answer. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
Is yours about a special TV show you watched at one point, or
no,
a TikTok you saw and you'll never forget the day you saw that TikTok?
It's so funny because we do have these total God moments that are so significant. And that's incredible. Mm-hmm. And then we have these days that you just wish you could go back to. And for me, it would be like, as we age and as we get older, we lose people out of our everyday lives, and we lose grandparents and we lose folks. So I have an aunt in my life has particularly struggled. So I think I would go back to an Easter, because we always looked really beautiful. We also had a brand new dress on. And then we would go to church and it would be a fantastic service. And then we would go to both of our grandparents and hunt Easter eggs all on the same day. And it was like the whole family, both sides. And the weather was always beautiful usually. And we would just be getting outside. And it was like the sweetest Easters. And so I would go back to one of those Easters and be with the whole family.
Okay. So you realize you're answering a different question. You asked us, what is a day we'll never forget? And you're answering, what day would you go back to?
I don't remember. I will never forget
that Easter
day. Yeah. I was in a purple dress with white polka dots. I don't know how I'm still.
It's still very poignant and meaningful.
Marian, I don't know how I'm still in charge of finding the question, just because Justin does everything else.
Believe in you. I believe
Justin
in you.
produces the show. He gets the town.
Y'all should just give yourself a little grace and maybe ask the same question to every guest.
That's
so you
true.
don't have to feel the pressure.
That's true. We have done 162 episodes, so we're really running thin. Yes. But no, that's a great answer. A last question for you is how can people connect with you? Where do you want people to find you if they're interested in learning more about your ministry?
Yeah. My website is thisredeemedlife.org, and on Instagram, it's thisredeemedlife, and on Facebook. So
I love that. And
super easy.
Yeah. And if you want to sign up for
my podcast is This Redeemed Life. So.
This Redeemed Life.
YouTube.
That's excellent. Well, that was a really good name.
It's really well branded.
Experience.
Yeah.
We will have this for you if you want to put it up on your website. And then
we got to sign up before you get all into the cleanup details.
And Kristen.
So let me just sign up. Then we can stop recording.
Can you be quiet?
Just stop 1 second.
Finish this.
If you want to register for this.
I think y'all need couples counseling.
You're not the first person who said that.
Yes.
I want people to know if they want to sign up, they can still sign up at cityrise.org/women. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please send it. If you're already going to this retreat and you want to invite a friend, this is a great thing to send to them. Say, hey, here is the speaker. Yes. She's awesome. Come be a part of this with me. So if you're already signed up, your job is to invite somebody else, either by sending this link or reaching out. If you haven't signed up, please go to cityrise.org/women and register. And if you like this, please rate, review, and subscribe.
All right. Thank you so much, Marian. And thank you guys for being with us today. Bye. And we hope to see you at the Women's Retreat. And we hope you've had an almost amazing time on the Almost Amazing Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Almost Amazing Podcast from the CityRise Network based in Houston, Texas. CityRise is a partnership of church campuses, nonprofits, and missionaries devoted to lifting our city and the world by generously giving the gospel of Jesus Christ. For more information or to find a church campus close to you in the Houston area, visit cityrise.org.